All right, welcome everyone to the Kubeflow Pipelines community meeting. Today's date is June 18, 2025. This meeting is governed by the CNCF Code of Conduct. The meeting is recorded and will be uploaded to the Kubeflow YouTube account for the Kubeflow Pipelines playlist after the call has ended. And what I've started doing is putting the recording next to the date so that it's a little bit easier to find. If I can find time, I'll go ahead and do that for the other dates, but I'm going to do that going forward. So as always, we start by allowing new call attendees to introduce themselves. So if you are new to this call or to the project, or if you've just never introduced yourselves and would like to do so now, the floor is yours.
I'm happy to go first. Hey guys, I'm Anna Graves. I work with Mike Zazula here from the Capital One side. Just joining to listen in. It's clearly my first time, and I'd like to see how the process is run from the larger group. So thanks for the welcome.
Awesome. Welcome. Nice to meet you.
I can go next. So this is Tolga. I am the Capital One. I'm from Capital One as well. So working with Alex and Mike and Anna. I'm new to this area and the new transfer their Qflow pipelines.
Welcome. Nice to meet you.
I'm PJ Dolan. I'm also from Capital One. I also work with Alex and Tolga and Anna and Mike Zazula. Good to be here today.
At the
Nice.
risk of just like really laying it on too thick here, hey, I'm Emily Gould. I also work with all these people at Capital One. We are big Kubeflow lovers and adopters. So we've got a couple extra folks here to listen in on where the direction is headed with V1 and V2. I won't spoil anything that Mike wants to share here, but lots of interest from our side, hence our increased attendance from folks on the Capital One side. So thanks for letting us pop in and listen.
Awesome. Welcome everyone. Anyone else? All right. Just one, I guess, note I'll say to all you Capital One folks joining that as you are participating, as you are making issues and pull requests and having them merged, I would suggest my recommendation would be that once you get a couple of them merged to if you are not already, make a pull request on becoming a Kubeflow member, community member, and I think Michael can show you how to do that. It's super easy. We would be happy to sponsor that once you have that contribution in place. Cool. So Mike, you have the first point.
Yeah. So internally, we're kind of like actually doing full migration of Kubeflow to V2. So with us kind of like formally deciding like, all right, we're going to end like V1 support at some point, was just kind of curious, like how we wanted to go about like that deprecation process from our end as maintainers. So, or just like general community support. Like, I think the main thing that we have in master is really like the back end support for like the API for V1. I think most people are just, if they're on V1, they're using like the latest, I think is 1.8.22 for the SDK. So if like vulnerabilities come up, it's really just image management from like that point. I feel that we would publish new ones. But when December hits and we kind of have that like last release, are are we thinking of like having a branch where we still maintain um new features that are coming into V2? Like we have that feature branch, but we still have the old V1 support, and we just kind of like release images off of that one. Or like I guess that was kind of like where I was going at of like how like what's the plan for that or if there are any ideas for going about it.
So to clarify, when you're talking about deprecation, you meant the removal, right,
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
V1 support. Okay, so I'm just gonna update that here. V1 removal. V1 is in deprecation state already, right? So okay. So what we I was uh my expectation here is that we would have the release of V2 prior the release that is prior to the release that will remove it. So let's talk examples, which is we're saying that we are going to remove it in the last version of the release of the year. So we have two dots. So I know we're gonna change the versioning to align with SDK, but I'll go with the trajectory we're at today, right? Which is right now we are expecting 2.6 to come out, right? So 2.6 is upcoming. Okay, so we'll have one more release, and then in 2.8, this is where we remove KFP v2 support for V1 APIs.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're saying that for this release, which is the last one, we'll continue to support patch releases on this version, right? So 2.x. And what this means is CVE fixes, new image releases, and the like. No new features.
Okay.
So that's what this means. We are going to, all new features will continue to come on the minor releases, but we will freeze the minor release on this, and we'll continue to support this for another, so support. Right now, the thinking is to support for 6 months. But this is again based on community feedback, right? Like if we don't want to make it this very difficult and burdensome for our community. So if you feel that we have like some like there's a desire for having this be longer than 6 months, then I think we're open to that. We want to make the transition seamless. For KFP V1 support, I think the reality is that we just haven't been making changes to this like at all. There haven't been any release for like a really long time. So this is effectively dead, right? So and I wasn't around at this point, but I don't know if we ever sent a formal announcement for this. I do see asks coming in for V1 like changes, and but we just haven't made a release for this at all, right? So I think if there comes asks that like this is stopping us from migrating and we are like willing to help contribute, I will be happy to do a release to aid with that. But I think maybe we should also do a formal announcement that at some point we want to stop doing any releases for this.
Yeah, my one of the thoughts that I had was potentially like this could be like a separate issue, but like we make like possibly work on some utility that can just help like people migrate like V1, like a V1 pipeline to like the V2 standards. So I think that's where like most migration efforts, like you don't really know what you're gonna fall into until you actually like do it. So something that can help like speed up that process, I think would be useful.
I think this is a great idea. I think that we should definitely do that, and I would rather we spend our time doing that than supporting more releases on this, and help people jump off as much as possible. So two areas where like if people when they're trying to migrate having pipelines or like tools and scripts to help them switch and convert, I think we should definitely make an issue for this. And second, if they are coming across scenarios where like there is a feature regression, I think we need to heavily prioritize those. So we need to identify those. So, and you guys have already been like super involved with that. So if you continue to do so, please raise it and so that we can address it. For this, can you create an issue for this and an effort, since I imagine you're probably already doing something similar. Is that right? Or
I had the thought in the back of my head, but I just haven't prioritized it. I'm about to I've been working with the .local stuff, and
Okay.
Yeah, I have this other PR that I forgot to put on here, but I'll put it after. Like we could talk about it at the end.
I can't see you here. I don't know. It's because I'm a
You
red
could
hat
just
thing.
do Zazula, I think. Or maybe my email might come up.
It's fine. I'm just gonna
Fine.
you I'll
I
just
don't
tag this. I think it's because I'm on my red hat account. So Michael to create an issue for this. Okay. And then we can we at some point we spoke with Volvo in the past, and they're also on V1, and maybe we can reach out to them again and see like if this is something that they would be interested in at least give once we have it ready, giving it a try or being part of the process and helping implement it. So I think let's get an issue and then maybe we can poke some people.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds great.
Thank you.
Thank-
Any other questions regarding V1 removal? And for those that are not aware, the announcement for it is in the discussions for KFP as well. So if you wanted to see the details around it, you can just go to announcements and you can see the deprecation notice. So that's when we announced the deprecation back in March. And then I've just been putting updates. So just know that if you're looking to link this to anyone and for more information, you can link that. So, all right. Let's keep going. Nilesh, you have the next topic.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. So just to reintroduce myself, I joined the Red Hat TSP team, Kubeflow Pipeline team, a few weeks ago. And since then, I've been gathering some knowledge around what type of tests do we have within the KFP project, and how do we align all of our testing, create a documentation of what's been tested. How do we easily identify whether we've got good coverage, whether a test failure is a blocker or not, and also cleanup, because when I saw the test cases in the project, tests are all over the place. So I just wanted to have some sanity in the testing there. So I have, after gathering all that knowledge, after looking at the code base, and again, this is just a proposal. Things may change slightly, but the overall picture is that we want to have more comprehensive coverage. We want to have a clean code base and aligned testing framework that everyone can easily use and make it more scalable so that tests are easy to add. So without further ado, if I can share my screen.
Hopefully it lets you. Let me know if you need me to stop sharing.
Yeah.
Oh, try now.
If you accidentally add the same.
No, I cannot until
Okay.
you stop sharing. Yeah.
Okay. There.
Because of the way that the rep queue. The way that they access them, they don't call any, they call the
Yes.
submissions. So. I think.
So do you see my GitHub?
It's for me. It's loading still. So.
Add.
Is anyone else seeing it, or?
But there is some discussions like this is already.
To me, it says it's ready.
Yeah, just
Are
a
you-
black screen.
Is it the power?
Stop and reshare, or I can share the link and if you
Yeah,
can
sure.
hold it up.
But in my mind, they.
No?
1 second. Every time I share screen, Zoom decides to throw the entire UI under the. Okay. Got it. All right. You see it?
Yep. So basically, the goals for this proposal is to, like I was mentioning, to increase our coverage, but have more coverage around the components or the services that we have in the project. create a standard main list of pipeline files that anyone can use. Some critical ones are widely used pipeline files covering different scenarios and stuff. Create standardized test framework and refactors are testing as well, and create and also in the process in our documentation and make any changes in the documentation as necessary. Some things to consider is that we won't be covering any component of the project that we cannot interact directly with. For example, the executor. We don't have currently a way to directly interact with the executor. You have to create a pipeline in order to get that executor record. You have to create a workflow. Third-party dependencies like Arco workflows, we won't be testing it. Front-end test will not be, will stay the same. So that's not covered in here. So the proposal is basically for the API tests. So it's divided into 3 sections. First, let's just consider the server API test. So for the server API test, we will be going and trying to test each and every API that we have, API endpoint, which will cover most of the components, component by component. We'll use Ginkgo plus Comeka as a testing framework, which is a very flexible framework. I'm pretty sure people have heard of it or used it before, but it's kind of like a BDD style framework where the test becomes self-documenting. You can label your test, you can run your test through labels. It's very flexible assertion library, and it also produces reports in different formats, like text format, JSON format, JUnit XML format, which you can then transpose into other types of reporting as well. So I don't want to go through the document, so I'm leaving it up to the audience to go and look at the documentation honestly and give provide feedback. But then the SDK tests, currently we have SDK tests that are also executing the whole pipeline, but in my opinion, it's SDK tests are doing 2 things. One is they're compiling a pipeline YAML file. The other is calling the API server endpoints. So if we can split that up into 2 sections of compilation and the API, we don't have to create like have long running tests and still get a lot of coverage utilizing a main list of pipeline files as well as the API tests. Leveraging those, we'll get plenty of coverage on the SDKs. And then we'll also have a set of end-to-end test cases currently covered under, like I was mentioning, SDK tests, sample tests, and some front-end tests. But rather we'll have a full end-to-end test cases as a separate section where we'll have a subset of files, pipeline files that will upload and verify the creation of a pipeline, the run of a pipeline, but also verifying the components in between, all the components that it interacts with, so that if there is a failure, then we know where the failure is. So that's also divided into 2 sections. One is a subset of critical pipelines, and the other one will be a full list of pipeline files that we run against.
Figuring out ways.
These tests will also be in Go, in Golang, using Ginkgo and Comeka. So that's the gist of the proposal. You can go through the proposal for more details, but I think this will benefit us a lot in increasing our test efficiency, our test coverage, enhanced team collaboration, and of course, the biggest one with Ginkgo is the self-documentation of our test cases. I've also created 2 POCs for the API test. One is for the API test, server API test, and one is for the SDK. The SDK one is still work in progress, but feel free to go and look at the POCs just to get a picture of how those tests would look like.
So seeing it with.
So as you can see, just by adding a YAML file, I've actually created 115 scenarios for pipeline upload API test.
This is amazing. I love this.
Any
Was that all, Nilesh? Or any questions for Nilesh?
I guess the last thing that this kind of feels like.
I think it's no secret that testing in KFP is extremely messy. There's like a million tests that are spread out throughout the entire repository. Getting some sanity here is, I feel like, very much warranted.
So like not even like.
I think one outcome here is that we're also unifying on like frameworks, right? So we're keeping primarily the PyTest will stay for SDK, but otherwise we're settling on Go testing, right? So via Ginkgo and Gomega. Nice. What we also don't have is reporting, so this will have that. Well, our reporting that we have in our CI, it's this massive like log dump. This will, I think, be a lot more organized.
And this framework is also introducing logging as well, so that we log at each step. The one thing that I noticed when I first started to run the test was that anytime there was a failure, I couldn't figure out where the test failure was until I look at the stack trace and go to the test and read what the test was, actually read the code to see what the test was actually supposed to do. So this will make it easier to understand in English language where the test failed and why the test failed.
Yeah, people have such a hard time like parsing through the test failures. We are the GSOC summer student, Kai, she for the longest time wasn't even aware that we're showing a failure here, but there's actually like the tests are executing there and they couldn't tell, and they spent a lot of time just looking here. They didn't even know which test was failing itself, right? So improved reporting is, and declaratively naming our tests is something that would be very beneficial to especially newcomers. Matt?
And Nilesh, do you have a PR up already with the KEPs so that we can provide feedback?
Yep. So I already have one PR up for just one API API server endpoint.
Oh, not for the POC, but for the KEP, like the proposal document.
Oh no, not for the KEP. No, I can create that. It's actually part of the same POC. I can move it as a separate PR as well.
Yeah, so that people can provide feedback. That would be good. And since you don't have it right now, just let me know. I'll throw the link on here once you have it, and maybe throw it in Slack for the CNCF Kubeflow Pipelines channel so people can provide their feedback and suggestions.
I'll do that. Yeah.
Okay.
That's kind of what I thought.
Anything else? Any other questions for Nilesh?
The only value add would be if we wanted to fully automate it.
Awesome. All right, Francisco, you have the next point.
And LLM orchestrating it.
Hey everybody, this is a quick proof of concept I did and then kind of polish it up a little bit. And I started to look to add dark mode because I just do that in every upstream, I guess. But I'll probably save for a later date. But this is basically enabling the UI to be shipped with KFP. So like thematically, what we've talked about in the Kubeflow SDK document is to make sure that every Kubeflow project has a really good local story, basically, for end users. And what I did here is I compiled the React app into static content and shipped it. I could make some actions for it to actually automatically do that when the application's changed, so that when you deploy a new SDK version to PyPy, it'll be shipped along with it. And I have some logging to note that it's experimental. And like the idea is that we could let people test things locally and be able to experience the UI locally. The actual uploading of pipelines doesn't quite work yet. So like for the most part, you could just consider it static content to just kind of display it. wanted to get people's appetite for this. I think that there's a lot that we're working on in experiments where we want to continue to invest in this. And what Andre and I spoke about was, looking at Katib to potentially put in here as well. And this is a pretty common pattern. This is actually like I was inspired by this by what we do in Feast, where we ship a UI as well. Now, the difference within Feast is that the UI is purely static content. It's actually not dynamic, and you can't tinker with it. The KFP UI, you actually can. So, wanted to kind of show people here that there's a little lightweight server that you can use to actually run the UI server, but that's kind of it. Yeah, go ahead.
So you're gonna probably like my roadmap item on this, but I like the idea of being able to spin up a UI locally. And what I don't know if this was your thinking, but what I'd like to see is that you're running KFV local when you execute the pipelines, rather than you're running it against some sort of like kind cluster or something. I don't know.
Yeah, very
And
much agree.
like already, we streamlined the deployment of Kubeflow pipelines on kind, but people are consistently getting hit with resource constraints, and they don't have enough memory. There's so many pods and what have you. So it's a barrier. I think that the most difficult part about this will be getting it working with the actual run executions. The storage of the servicing of the pipeline and all that stuff, we can use SQLite in the background if you wanted to and integrate it that way. But the run execution, I think that'll be a little bit tricky.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Just to clarify, like currently, like with the PR, you can't run a pipeline with it, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Do you think we could maybe just make a slight adjustment so that it could point to an external REST API? So the UI is running locally, but you could point it to an external API. So at least it would be usable, and then we could merge it as is and iterate on it. I just don't want to merge something that like doesn't provide value right now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess yeah, I can take a look at enhancing to be able to point to REST endpoint. I think that's fine. I think the original spirit was just to do something lightweight to show like, hey, look, you can actually just do this locally, and then we can enhance it from there. Candidly, I do have a lot of other commitments, so I probably won't get to doing more for a while because it took me a while to just test it and verify and stuff like that. But I'll look to do that.
I think regardless, this code will come in handy. If we can't, I agree with Matt. Like I do think that if we can have it either be a reductor or something, rather than have something that like a user will try to run and they see like a broken UI, is probably not an experience that we want to offer. So,
Yeah.
but either way, this is something that I'm putting on the roadmap, and I feel strongly towards, and we will likely reuse this code. Francisco, if you don't have the bandwidth, maybe we can like get somebody to take this up and adjust it so that they can add that capability to it.
Yeah, I mean, someone could take over my my PR, or I can look to see how long it'll take me to dig into it.
Okay.
I've already forgotten this code, and I'm working on other stuff. So if I'm behind, I don't even remember. I think I did this late Friday night. Was the only free time I had. But yeah, I agree with the premise. I think like I am very pro, like, as this is a point of fact, I am pro highlighting to users that, hey, look, this is partially broken, but there's changes that are coming. And so like the logging of the UI to say like when you spin this up locally is alpha.
We just have like a history of in this project of merging code that hasn't been fully implemented, and you can even find it in the docs like this is not supported, and I'm not a big fan of that. I think that
I have a much more nuanced view of that, actually, where like that's an approach. I don't like that approach. if I'm to be honest with you. I think like how you document what's like robust, what you expect is you know, a quality component of your feature is important. And I think like things that are in alpha, you just tell your users like, hey, look, this is alpha. We're gonna make improvements out of it. But if you focus solely on like perfect products being shipped, then the commitment uh is very high in order to get it fully polished before it's actually shipped to users. And I think that ends up causing more
Well,
problems.
I 100% agree with you that it doesn't have to be robust, and I'd be perfectly fine with saying something is in an alpha state. But again, to Matt's point, I think that it should, if we can make this usable by just like, okay, right now you point to an external route, that's fine. Then it allows us to merge the code and provide some value to the user.
Yeah.
And we can say like, yeah, but you might encounter issues, things might break. That's fine. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, and at the bare minimum, like the command should be KFP alpha space UI, so that like as you're typing in the command, you're opting into like this is not a production ready feature.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, feel free to comment that on the PR explicitly, Matt.
Yeah, Matt.
Oh,
Why haven't you
sorry.
commented it?
Tell me in this meeting is useless. I've already forgotten what you said.
All right.
That's fair.
So, any other questions or comments about that? Thank you so much for leading this, Francisco. You planted the idea in my head, and
Yeah, I mean, the only other thing is just getting feedback to the community that like, hey, look, do we think this would be cool? This is something that like you know, your end users would care about, that they find useful. I know that my experience with other frameworks that offered this has been that users did end up really liking it, but so that they could see like local changes to stuff before they go and deploy it. In Feast again as one example, but there are others. So would love to you know, at least share with the community and get feedback on it. No need to rush to merge it or review it, but again, just wanted to at least surface it.
Awesome. Thank you, Francisco. Mike, you have the next point?
Yeah, this PR, it's for the set display name issue that is found with components in V2. It required proto changes, and I decided to just like bundle it all. Like actually, instead of having two PRs, I took the task to like see how can I get it to work, like have the CI actually test the proto changes itself. It was really just kind of getting compiling the KFP pipeline spec package properly and then installing it. Some of it just required like reordering of installations, right? Because it's a dependency. We want to install from source. Sometimes if there was an existing package that installed it as a dependency, it would already be shown there. So I passing the dash I is just the ignore installed, like just always install from source. That way, if there are no changes to the proto, then the user's just going to have, like any new PRs would just have the proto actually installed, like the same files install again from source. Yeah, go ahead.
Just a quick comment. Definitely pro this. We've done this elsewhere in the CI, where we've been doing it with the SDK and the Kubernetes platform package. So love that you're doing this. If you pick this out as a separate PR, that's a lot easier to review. We could probably merge that a lot quicker, and this will reduce the diff on this PR. And you can rebase this. Just a suggestion. That way you can get this in sooner. But yeah, anyways, continue.
Yeah, no, that was one of my main concerns, is like I knew it was going to blow this PR up, because with updating the proto required updating all those all the stubs for all the tests. And yeah, I was just like, I'll just gonna use this PR as a playground for that. I'm sorry to whoever's listed as reviewers, and I probably blew up your email box with a bunch of stuff. Sorry, Matt. I know you're one of them. But yeah, other than like the test changes and the workflow changes, the main changes for the actual fix, they're in if you go to the pipeline spec.proto, it's mainly just adding an additional field. I just added task name instead of like modifying name and then having that mapped to specifically the task name, to try to be like not have to make too many changes. I do know, though, conventionally, like it's like it should be name and display name. At least that's how I feel. The driver, just really adding some values for that, and we kind of write to MLMD. Now when we publish it with task name and display name. There are two actual separate fields if inside of the metadata.client it was already handling for display name, or sorry, for task name and display name. It's a value inside. So it was like display name and task name. So decided to just pass in an actual unique value than having two of the same values. And then some front end changes that needed to happen. So it was actually reflective in the UI, but yeah, that it was the actual changes for set display name is relatively small compared to the changes for the CI. This is more of a CI PR, if anything.
Yeah, then I'm even more pro. If we can extract it. It's so funny. You're like fighting the display name battle on the SDK side, and Matt is fighting it on the API server side. I don't know if you saw those recent PRs, but yeah.
No, I have not. I got to take a look at them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll break them up. I already rebased it to 2 commits, so I could just make it a different PR. Fairly
Feel free to
easily.
tag me. I can volunteer on the CI PR. It looks like the code changes themselves seem pretty small, largely driver based. Is there anybody that can volunteer for reviewing the code side of things? I can take on the CI. If not, then I can get to this next week. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's a real rush. It would be nice to have before the next release, which was another thing I wanted to bring up. I know we're already at time, but if we had a day in mind for 2.6.
I punted the release, so we can briefly talk about that. But I'll continue to try to get eyes on this, Michael. And if once you are able to split it up, so that's your plan, then you'll be able to split it up.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Just DM me the CIPR. We can get that in first. For release, I'm thinking end of July. This aligns well with the next Kubeflow release 1.11. And that will be the release that will be going into the Kubeflow 1.11 release. Yeah, probably a good idea then to get this in for that release. Cool. Any questions for Michael? All right, we are at time. I'm going to take a couple of minutes because I feel like this is important. But if you have to log, feel free. This call is recorded. So as part of the CNCF graduation requirements, we are working on an open SSF badge, which has its own requirements for the CNCF requirements. So one of them is to have a roadmap. We have a roadmap, it's just very outdated. And the roadmap currently for KFE that you can find is in the root of the repository. And if you click on it, it's saying 2022 roadmap. So it's about time that we updated it. I have done a brain dump last night on the things that are top of mind for me, and also the team I'm part of and our downstream, and also just what I've been hearing from folks in Slack and GitHub issues and in the community calls. So I've tried to put some of that stuff together here. I've broken it into different themes. So you have a user experience. This is largely feature focused. So I put that at the top. There's I'm still working on it, but if you have suggestions, please give them. And if you feel like something shouldn't belong or should be better addressed, again, drop your comments. There's user documentation. I feel very strongly about improving the KFP documentation. I feel like it's in a very messy state. Core platform and stability. This is also very dear to me because we have a lot of outdated packages, libraries. Some of them are things like React 19 upgrade, Gorm v2 upgrade. So we have some commitments on these already. So these are not like wish lists that will never happen. And I will be filling out the owners columns with those names that I have that I know are contributing. For example, for v2 upgrade, we have the GSOC student working on this. Port above 6 support, and so on. So please take a look at this. And if there's anything that you feel is missing, let me know. What else? There's extensibility and integrations, right? So how KFP integrates with other Kubeflow components, right? I mentioned. So I think a lot of this effort will be largely writing components. So components that can work well with Feast, components that can work well with model registry and serving and so on and so forth. So a lot of the components today, I think, are outdated. I would like to also remove them, but I haven't put that on here. There's performance and scalability and QE. So I think a lot of what Nilesh is talking about, we can break that up into a few more granular high-level tasks that we can place here. So Nilesh, I'll work with you on that. There's another one, I've reduced pod overhead. I think it was you, Michael, or somebody from Capital One had said something. I actually played around with this, by the way, and I think I have a very low diff way of solving this issue. I have a POC for it as well. So yeah, maybe I'll link that to you guys, and you can also take a look. And maybe we can turn that into a cap. There's security and compliance. We have CVEs coming out of image scans that we need to resolve. I've listed a specific tool here that we use in our downstream. It's available to use in open source projects called SNCC. I think a good target would be to do a SNCC. It doesn't have to be this tool. It has to be just one popular tool or multiple that we can run against the code base. And we identify any critical and high-level CVEs and we resolve them. I think the backend is largely in a good place, but I think that the front end is not. And but that the React 19 upgrade and falls under that umbrella as well. So it's not unrelated. Community and governance also super important to me because I feel like we have kind of like let this one we haven't paid as much attention to it as I feel like we should. So one thing I would like is for at any given time in KFP, at least 3 maintainers should be able to perform KFP releases. So I can perform it, Chen can perform it, and we have documentation for it. And then I think the next item with this would be to have Alex perform it once he's back. And that'll ensure that he has the all like this equivalent rights being distributed across, and it's not, project isn't dependent on just one maintainer. Blogs, this is to kind of just encourage people to write more KFP blogs. People are using KFP. I think people would like to write about them, and it would just, we can link those in the README. Right now we have very outdated blogs. I would also like us to push for YouTube tutorial videos. So I divide them up into 2 different types. One is for admins, because there's many different ways you can deploy Kubeflow pipelines and what you are integrating with, what backends you're using, and so on and so forth. Are you using Mini? Are you using AWS? Whatever. Are you doing standalone installs? Are you doing Kubeflow wide installs? And so it'd be nice to have a series that showcases this. And I think it would also be nice for us to do user-driven videos that are showcasing use cases. And this can complement our integration story as well, right? Every time we like have a new integration that we add a component, suppose you've added a Gen AI component that supports like RAG use cases, right? It'd be nice to have a YouTube video about that, right? So I would highly encourage, if you want to get involved there, to also take part in this community-facing side of things, and also a curated list of good first try issues. As soon as we put a label on good first issue on an issue, like somebody picks it up. So I think that like that's a utility that we are not utilizing too effectively, and all it takes is a little bit of time to identify issues that can be good first issues. If you see one, let me know. If you don't have the permission to add labels, I'll add them. But I think we I don't know if you can do it via /commands. If you can, please do. If not, let me know and I'll do it. So again, this is publicly viewable, this document. Please take a look, leave your comments. If you feel like something is missing, let me know. Also, we can discuss it and start your discussion threads here. And if there's something that you would like to be a part of, let me know and we can talk about it. So cool. Any questions and comments or concerns? All right. So I would like to finalize on this within like 1 to 2 weeks. So that's the timeline I'm thinking of. And when whatever we have by then, I'm going to finalize it as a markdown and update the roadmap MD in the root of the KFP repo. So cool. I had another topic. I'll punt it to next time since we're way over time, but it's using AI tooling to help with reviews on pull requests. We've used some of this in our downstream. We found it very effective. So it'd be nice to enable this in our stream as well. All right. Any last comments before we end the call? Cool. Oh, on. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right.
Yeah, no worries. On to.
Okay.
Quick question. Being new to Kubeflow, the last time I played with it was back in 2019 or something like that. Many versions ago. How do I want to, if I want to learn more and contribute, how do I start? Because there's a lot to cover.
I will start with doing a kind install. We have documentation for there. So if you go to the Kubeflow website, installation instructions, you should be able to get a deployment of Kubeflow pipelines going. And then I would follow some of their quick starts and try writing your own pipelines and running them against that environment.
Yeah, I mean, I did that already, but looking at the code base, it's hard to figure out where to pull a thread, right? And start pulling.
Sorry, is your question about how to contribute to the repository, or is it how to use?
No. I've installed Kubeflow, Unkind, all that. Now I'm looking at the code base, right? The GitHub. And there are many PRs and to-dos, right? And I'm just not sure where to start.
So you want to identify an issue to work on and develop for and contribute to? Is that?
Yes, but the
Yeah.
problem is which issue, and most of these issues require deeper knowledge, right? And that's where I'm stuck.
Right. Are you on the Slack for the CNCF Kubeflow pipelines?
Yep.
Okay. Do you know who I am? I'm Humair. If you are able, I'll put it in the chat. So
Okay.
that's my name. Reach out to me. I can help you get set up with some good starter issues.
Yep. I'm basically I was on Nephio and I wrote Kubernetes operator for CNF, containerized network functions. And now I'm just looking for a new project to work on. And that's why I'm shopping around. But thank you. I will reach out.
Awesome. Look forward to working with you.
Thanks. Bye.
Anyone else? All right. Maybe we should make this call 1 hour. I don't know why it's 40 minutes, but okay, cool. Thanks everyone. See y'all next time. Remember this call is recorded and will be uploaded to YouTube. Take care. Bye.